You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better. Put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of, What If Naruto Enters GTA 5? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of pyrohelixdrago on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. North Yankton. Dang, that was F up, Naruto said as he and Trevor ran from the cops, luckily getting a bag with a small amount of money from the heist on the bank, having to run through miles of snow and hiding as it was very to get back into town, as North Yankton was a small town and everyone noticed everyone. F right it was, Trevor said angrily with a few tears. Our buddies are either getting their asses checked by the cops or dead as F, he said angrily at the thought of his two best friends dead. Listen Uncle T, we knew the risks, we got a small amount, Naruto said as almost 50,000 wasn't a bad take. Okay, Trevor said calming down, worst case scenario if our partners in crime break we should disappear, he said thinking literal. Alright, Naruto said taking out a sprayable dye for hair, making his hair brown to blend in as no one really notices brunettes like they would a blonde. Got your fake ID? Trevor asked using a knife he had to shorten his hair. I swear Lester taught that girl good, he said as Naruto's girlfriend was Lester's protege. Always, Naruto said as he kept 2 wallets on him, on with his real ID and cash, a second decorated with old gift cards, expired credit card, and a fake ID. This is where we part ways. Lester will know when we can make contact, Trevor said as they were meant to split apart after this as this town was a small one. Alright, here's your share of the take, Naruto said as he gave Trevor 12,500 as everyone was supposed to get a lot more from the take, but since it was him, Trevor, Lester, and Temari, they all got a quarter of the 50,000. Thanks kid, Trevor said taking off, but before he left, what are your plans for your share, he asked curiously. You mean besides preventing myself from getting caught? Naruto said as they shared a chuckle. I don't know, invest maybe, he said with as he was smart with money. Not as smart as Lester but still smart. Stick to cards kid, you have the devil's luck, you'll be richer than us all, Trevor said losing a lot of money to Naruto. Also tell those girls I said to stay out of trouble, he said with a smirk. They may just kill him for that, Naruto thought as coming from him that was almost like an insult. 9 years later. You two look F up, Naruto said as he was now 29 years old and saw his friend Franklin and Lamar show up in a little damaged cars. I still be looking better than yo Peach, Lamar said with a smirk as he high-fived Naruto. How you doing man? Franklin said giving Naruto a quick hug. I can't believe you two work for this jackass, Naruto said as Simeon was a crooked crook basically as slippery as an eel. Pays the bills homie, we ain't got money like you, Lamar said as this job got them good money, plus how you know we ain't gonna cap yo, but, he said trying to sound serious. Cause you dumb F, he'll kill you before you get the chance, Franklin said as Naruto did use guns but mainly used small kunai the size of a finger and only had 2 regular tri-pronged kunai on his sides, and if not him his girls will definitely pop yo Peach but not before torturing yo Peach, he said as the redhead Naruto dated was terrifying when angry. Alright, so who wants to get F up? Naruto asked them. They both agreed instantly. Few days later. Oh my god, Deborah said with a mind-shattered look as she stared at the ceiling as she just had mind-numbingly amazing SEC with Naruto. She had large D-cup melons, curvy body, and a round plump peach. So how's what's his name Floyd? Naruto said as he met Deborah months ago as she was drinking her sorrows away as her boyfriend was pathetic and not very satisfying in bed. They talked for a while and started screwing behind his back as Naruto met the guy and he was as pathetic as they came, always mumbling, never standing up for himself. He even shitted himself as he saw a Vago's gang member pass him by thinking the guy was walking toward him. The same, Deborah said as she loved this as even though she didn't break up with Floyd it made SEC with Naruto hotter. They were brought out of their conversation as they heard gunfire. Vagos, Naruto said as they were literally on the other side of this block and then got a call he immediately picked up. Not the time dude, Naruto said to Franklin as he told Deborah to stay here while he would handle the Vagos. Bro, we need you fighting the Vagos right now, Franklin said over the phone, gunfire in the background. I swear you two became bigger idiots since yesterday, Naruto said as this was bullshit to the highest degree possible. We know that fool, just get the F over here, Lamar said over Franklin's phone. I swear every time you two get together it's hell on earth, Naruto said as those two gathered so much heat it was insane. He made it to their location and shot a guy on a green motorcycle as he was pulling out the street and saw Franklin and Lamar approach. How the F you know he was Vagos, Franklin asked curiously, wondering how he got here so fast. His gun, Naruto said as he went into the dead gang member's pocket. These guys only carry cheap as pistols and sometimes semi-automatic weapons, he said as he stared at them. You go on gang territory with just your wits, are you to F high? He asked as this was next level stupid. We got out there alive, didn't we? Lamar said proudly. And maybe someone else did too, they might remember your faces, you couple of morons, Naruto said as it was very risky to steal in broad daylight. You two are lucky there are no cameras around here, otherwise our faces may have been seen. Get in my car, he said as they got in his black and orange Vapid Dominator GTX and drove along the beach to avoid any detection and suspicion if they got on the main roads, not wanting to be placed at the scene. Few hours later at a bar. I swear when they say opposites attract they were not lying, Naruto said drinking with Franklin and Lamar. You are smart and a little streetwise while you are a dumbass with some street understanding, he said pointing to Franklin then Lamar. Franklin, all jobs have heat, it ain't easy, and you Lamar gotta be careful cause you PSS off a lot of people taking too many risks, he said as Lamar was an okay thief but as a criminal, he painted a bullseye on his back made of bright neon colors. Yeah, well, how'd you get so good? Franklin asked as Naruto rarely did jobs but was good at what he did. Because I know what to expect when I go somewhere, Naruto said seriously, like with an automatic weapon to gang territory, not a couple of pistols, he said as they got so undeniably lucky it was insane. Yeah, well, what do you usually carry? Lamar asked as that was something he felt like asking. Machine pistol, a combat knife, 2 tear gas grenades, Naruto said as he was very conservative with ammunition and kept things like snipers in his trunk hidden very well under its material so cops only saw whatever he left in the trunk. Okay, and when would it have been a good idea to steal that bike? Franklin asked him, wondering what Naruto would have done. Either at night when people are asleep or during the day when the guy is either at work or you. No, he'll be somewhere else, Naruto said as this was common sense and reason. Hey homie, how you get there so fast? Lamar said as he and Franklin finished the Vagos there by blowing up a tank filled with gas and a car that crashed, shooting the remaining members. Personal reasons, Naruto said, not telling them much, and listen, I'll go with both of you on your next job so I can tell you step by step your mistakes, he said as even though they were friends he knew they needed to learn. Simeon will probably call tomorrow, you be good till then, Franklin asked him. Sure, don't matter to me, Naruto said as they drank some more. Next day. Going on a job like this waste of your talents, a naked brunette said to Naruto as he got dressed. It's to teach these guys some skills so they can survive, you know, even for criminal they're decent people, Naruto said as he kissed her cheek. The woman blushed and smiled at him lovingly, blowing him a kiss. Later 10-10, Naruto said as he walked out. 10-10 only stared at his retreating figure as he left, then got up and got dressed, putting on a white shirt, a brown leather combat jacket, and black jean, equipping her blades hiding them perfectly and in a way to not hinder her movements. She then admired her figure in the mirror, seeing her body had developed nicely over the years. She had low E-cup melons, a well-sculpted but curvy body, and a nice bubbly peach. 10-10 then left and remembered how they arrived in this world. Flashback. 10-10 woke up slightly buried in snow as she got up and looked around, seeing Naruto in a similar state, and soon Naruto woke up and he slightly panicked and was looking around frantically in worry as he was worried about his fight with Kaguya, telling her about his last-ditch effort to stop her. Naruto and 10-10 became worried when they couldn't feel their chakra at all and couldn't perform any of the chakra exercises they knew. They soon calmed down and looked for the closest town, wanting to collect information on where they were. One day later. Naruto and Tenten were in a hotel after swiping a wallet from a little saddened as they quickly discovered they were in another world and were trying to let that settle onto their minds. Naruto was hugging Tenten close as she was crying not only about their situation but about the loss of their friend Niji. 1 week later. Naruto was smiling at Tenten, seeing her smile as she became rather recluse, dealing in the loss of their friend, but he was persistent and was breaking through her walls. They had gotten jobs working as a waiter. "Hey, did you hear there was another explosion like the one a week ago?" a man at the bar said to another man, both clearly drunk. Naruto and Tenten froze and listened closely as when they arrived here they discovered they had created an explosion. "We're going on break," they said to their boss, who allowed it as there wasn't much going on. Few minutes later. "Of all the people from our world," Naruto said as he picked up on Anko, Mitarashi and Temari and Tenten. One Mei Terumi. The older women were considerably younger, Temari around their age and Mei and Anko in their early 20s. Few hours later. "So we lost," Mei said in sadness as Naruto and Tenten explained the situation to her and Anko. 1 month later. "You want us to become criminals?" Naruto asked Anko in the hotel room. "May as well, kid, we're mercenaries, there's no sugarcoating that, and there are criminals we can steal from. Hell, most cops are corrupt," Anko said to her. "Okay, Mstr planner, let me poke some holes in your theory. We have no chakra and we are fast, but against automatic weapons that won't matter," Naruto said to her. "So we learn and adapt," Anko said to him. "She's right, Naruto, we need things like IDs and other paperwork. We can't get that staying within the lines," Mei said as Anko talked to her, and she had to agree with the woman as she had her points. "We're ninja, we do what we have to survive," Temari said as she understood where Naruto was coming from as she tried to be as human as possible despite her military upbringing and the horrors she saw. 5 months later. Tenten was staring at a pair of steel-bladed swords, going through the motions, her weapons training never leaving her. "Please, I'm begging you, do not do this," Naruto said as they were currently testing Tenten's blade skills as Tenten didn't like to use guns. "Sorry," Anko said as she began shooting a semi-automatic. Tenten basically danced, moving her blade so fast she was deflecting all the shots Anko fired. "Impressive," Mei said as she was impressed with Tenten's blade mastery. Flashback end. They had done small-time jobs against other criminals, their advanced tactics playing to their advantage, always improving and getting better. Naruto got into the life of crime but was sticking to his code as this world was full of injustice. Tenten smiled as she remembered when they got together, as he never gave up on her as she became a little colder as she killed some and the like. He pushed past her walls and was there to comfort her and make her feel better, and they soon became lovers, often inviting other women or inviting them to their relationship, but she made her stance clear that she was top girl. With Naruto. "Man, Lamar really screwed you," Naruto said as they made it to the house of the repo job. "Like every other day of my life," Franklin said as they made it to the gate. "See that groundskeeper," Naruto said pointing to the guy blowing away the leaves. "Wait till he gets closer to the garage to knock him out. These glasses are a little too decorated, can't see through from our side, but someone could see us from the other side," he said as they approached the groundskeeper, then knocked the man out. And as they approached the back, Franklin reached for the door but Naruto stopped him. "Wear gloves when doing A, B and E, dude," Naruto said, giving him some biker gloves, fingerprints and all that SHT, he said as they were all locked. "Let's climb the truck," he said, seeing it would allow them access to the roof to an open window. "It's 'cause you have a massive gaper, B," a male voice said loudly. "No F way," Naruto thought, recognizing the voice. "Ugh, you are dead, so F dead," a female voice said as she called to complain to her parents before going to her room. Stomping to her room as they entered the bathroom, seeing she had low D cups, a curvy body, and a bubbly peach. SHT, Naruto thought, realizing that was Tracy. "Let's go," Franklin said as they walked down the stairs walking toward the kitchen. Naruto pulled Franklin back as they saw two people enter, a woman with low DD cup melons, an athletic body, and a big round peach. Amanda must have remarried, he thought, as Michael died in Ludendorff after their heist, and he didn't know where Trevor was as he went on a rampage after finding out, and Lester and Temari couldn't find him after these past years. Franklin brought him out of his thoughts as they went to the garage, and as they entered he was still amazed by this blast from the past and entered the yellow truck and drove to Simeon's. "You feel that? That's a 9mm pressed against your friend's skull," a voice said behind Naruto. No way, how is this? Actually this shouldn't be that surprising, Naruto thought, peering behind him to confirm his thoughts, and was proven right when he saw Michael Townley. Uncle M, he said in surprise. It took Michael 1 second to realize who it was, then aimed the gun at Franklin. Stop the DMN car, he said in urgency. Few minutes later. Naruto and Michael stopped on the side of the road, Franklin waiting inside the car patiently. So the heist was a setup? Naruto asked. Seeing as how Michael was apparently living under a new alias, so Naruto assumed it was either witness protection or Michael had someone who got him the remainder of the score. Yeah, Michael said as he couldn't lie to the kid he thought of as a son. Wanna do a heist for old time's sake? Naruto asked, making Michael curious. Half hour later. Kid, I forgot how fun it is working with you, Michael said as Naruto had a car carrier trailer behind Simeon's. Okay, they should be here any minute, let's load up these cars, Naruto said as Simeon had 3 cars behind his building ready for his employees so they could reposes or chase down the people. How many cars this guy have? Michael asked curiously, wanting to put an estimate to the heist. 12 counting the truck he keeps inside, but 3 good ones in the front, Naruto said as he'd been there before visiting Franklin and Lamar casing this place. This thing only carries 14 cars, Michael said, noticing how much it could carry, and the 3 they're already on plus the 12 inside, then the 3 in the front added up to 18. I got it covered now, come on. He left the building literally, Naruto said as they rushed Simeon's office, grabbing the keys to the cars and their info, loading up the cars quickly, leaving now only the yellow truck Jimmy bought, which they put inside. Why are we leaving this one? Michael asked curiously as Naruto poured a jerry can on the floor around the truck. Sending a message, did you call the cops like I told you? Naruto asked curiously as he had Michael call the cops saying the yellow truck was stolen. Yeah, Michael said, confused about that part. Well, here is all the truck's info and insurance claims, Naruto said, handing Michael the documents, then lit a match, starting a fire on the gas. Now go to the truck, I'll call you, he said as he then conferenced in Franklin and Lamar, but sent them a text to let Simeon's place was on fire, and stealthily ran to the front as Simeon ran in to try and stop the fire, tossing Franklin and Lamar a key to the cars in the front and drove off with them. An hour later. I gotta ask homie, why leave the truck? Lamar asked curiously as they were a good distance away. Easy, Naruto smiled as they saw Simeon talk to the police. I had Michael call in the truck missing, have him read the license plate to call it in stolen, so, and made an anonymous call to the cops via burner phone, he said as he held up a burner phone as he threw away the last one, as he kept a box full of them in his trunk. And since none of these documents aren't signed in the ownership lines, I can say it's mine, meaning I get insurance money, and Mr. Yutirian over there goes to jail for robbing me, Michael said, following Naruto's train of thought. And since we have cars with their papers and keys, they'll be able to be sold at a good price, maybe if we're lucky 10,000 apiece, Naruto said as 17 cars meant 170,000. He was getting the biggest cut with how he organized the heist, got the truck, and did the grunt work. Michael would get 20,000 plus whatever insurance money from the truck, Franklin and Lamar would get 30,000 each, and he would get 90,000. Homie, Yuzi a mad F genius, no lie, Lamar said, both impressed and a little frightened. For real, Franklin said as Naruto made this seem so simple it was inspiring. Kid, I swear if I worked for you I wouldn't care if you treated me like dirt, this is gonna be a good pay, Michael said with a smile. And the best part is Simeon can't report them stolen without their info, and since the truck was found in his burned building he'll be questioned for theft and arrested for it and attempted arson, Naruto said as Michael laughed as he got some revenge and made a decent pay. I'll go see how, he said as how was a contact he and Franklin knew. Few days later at Michael's. About time you showed up, Michael said as Naruto came inside handing him a duffel bag as he knew Michael loved the classics. Hey 1010 said with a smirk. Hey brat, Michael said with a smirk as 1010 liked to push buttons. Where are the other 3, he asked curiously. Couldn't make it here, all your money is in there. How much the insurance company give you, Naruto asked curiously. 15,000, Michael said happily as he basically almost made 40,000 in an afternoon. Okay, come on in, he said as he took a deep breath in. Amanda, Tracy, Jimmy, get the F down here, he said loudly as the former Townley now to Santa family came to the stairs and gasped seeing Naruto and 1010. They all ventured to the living room. I thought you two were dead, Tracy said as she was 11 at the time when they did the heist in North Yankton. Yeah, how'd you find us? Amanda asked as she was 28 when they last saw each other. Pure accident, I was robbing you guys and Michael pulled a gun to my head, Naruto said with a small laugh. Michael, you wait, you were robbing us? Amanda asked as she was gonna reprimand Michael but heard Naruto say he was robbing them. Oh, trust me, you got your money back and then some, Naruto said as Michael gave her some reassurance. But how are you alive? I thought Dad said you were shot, Jimmy asked curiously. That was Brad, Naruto and Michael said as Jimmy always mixed up details. So did you two get married? Amanda asked, wondering if the lone ring on Tenten's finger was either an engagement ring or wedding ring. Married, Naruto and Tenten said with a smile. Tenten was watching Tracy subtly but closely, seeing her take in a slight pain-filled breath, so the adorable little girl we knew became an adult, she thought with a smirk. Well, what are you two doing? Amanda asked curiously. We run our own businesses, Naruto and Tenten said as Naruto ran Smoke on the Water, with May and a few other businesses, while Tenten had owned a few shares in ammunition and Temari ran the Vanilla Unicorn STRP-CLB. Next day. Hey Franklin, Naruto said as he and Michael were drinking by the pool. Hey man, thanks for inviting me, Franklin said as he sat on Naruto's chair. So you knew Naruto when he was starting out, right? He asked Michael curiously. Yeah, little punk BSTRD seemed smarter than the rest of us back then, Michael said as Naruto was a good criminal even back then. You teach him? Franklin asked as if this guy taught Naruto, then he was as skilled if not better than Naruto. We kinda taught each other, Michael said as he taught Naruto to aim properly with a gun while Naruto taught him how to use a blade more properly and pickpocket. His phone soon went off and he saw it was from Jimmy and pick up, and after hearing him he learned that him and his boat were being stolen. Naruto immediately called Enko, who was luckily on the highway in her motorcycle. A few minutes later. Both of you have a piece? Naruto asked, sitting in the back of the car. Glove box, Michael said as he kept a gun in all the cars, never traveling far from it. Didn't think it was a good idea to take it with me in his house, so I left it in my car, Franklin said, basically having no weapon. Here, Naruto said, tossing him a switchblade. There it is, he said, seeing a boat riding along the highway in a carrier. Michael, you have insurance on that thing, right? He asked, wondering if he needed to be. No, Michael said angrily as he needed to make some cutbacks in his budget. Okay, that makes this complicated, Naruto said as they couldn't pull insurance fraud, and as they got close, Vagos, he said, realizing who they were dealing with. These punk peach bess, Franklin said, having enough of the Vagos. I swear if they F up my boat, Michael said as the thing was worth $500,000. Alright Frank. I'm the best shot between us, you go on board, I'll cover you, Naruto said as Franklin got on the hood and jumped on the boat when they were close enough. Kid's got guts, I'll give him that, Michael said as he drove. He's got more than that, Franklin's smart but ain't got real good connections, Naruto said, popping a guy in the head. There he is, Michael said as Franklin got Jimmy. Have you ever taken Jimmy shipping before? Naruto asked as Jimmy looked like he didn't know what he was doing. No, he was always seasick, Michael said as it got bad with Jimmy. Well, that may be a problem, Naruto said as Jimmy was sent to the side holding onto the mast. I swear, Michael said as he sped along the side. I'll catch him, Naruto said as he stood on his seat and yanked Jimmy down when he aligned with the back seat. Before you yell and kill him, let's get Franklin, he said as there seemed like more men on the ship. Franklin jumped on the hood as soon as he got close, then made his way to the back. They always like this? He asked as Michael yelled at Jimmy. You have no idea, Naruto said with a smirk, which soon died when the engine made a bunch of noises, and as it did he saw a woman wearing a violet shirt under a black trench coat, a decent-sized black skirt and black mesh stockings. She had a large DD cup melons, curvy body, and a nice heart-shaped peach. There she goes, he said with a smirk, knowing Enko would track those idiots down. Hour later. I'm gonna miss that F boat, Michael said with a faraway look on his face. We'll get it back. I hate those Vagos assholes. And Franklin just dropped off the car and Jimmy at the house left the change in the glove box, Naruto said to Michael as Enko caught up to them when the car's engine died and she chased after them. She's a hunter, she'll find them, he thought to himself. Thief with honor, that's a new one, Michael said with a smirk. He doesn't take money from people he wants to work with or impress, Naruto said, as that would make Franklin a perfect person to work with but also double-cross. I'm retired, Michael said, finishing his drink. Yeah, but I see it in your eyes you missed the thrill, Naruto said as Michael lied a lot, especially to himself. That I will admit, Michael said as he often wondered if retiring was always like this. Listen, I'll try and track down the Vagos with Enko, call you in a couple days, Naruto said, taking off. Few days later. They did what? Naruto said in surprise over the phone. They pulled down the house, a female voice said over the phone with a slight Russian accent. When Michael makes a statement, he really makes a statement, Tenten said with a smile. This isn't good, Tenten, Naruto said as Martin Madrazzo was not an enemy a person wanted to have. Are you alright, Natalia? He asked as he did business dealings with Madrazzo, making him seem like an ally but made Natalia his inside mole to subtlety steal from the Mexican crime lord. Yes, I got out before it was too late, Natalia said with appreciation before hanging up. How is it she doesn't have a CC with him yet? He never figures it out. Tenten asked curiously as she knew Naruto had some hand in it and was wondering curiously from the kunoichi point of view. She drags him, and if worse comes to worse she has this SEC toy to fake it, Naruto said as he got dressed and was on his way to Michael's. Few minutes later. Before I kill you both, what is wrong with you? Naruto asked them as he saw them pull up in a bloody and smashed up truck. What we do? Michael asked as a black van pulled up. Naruto, my boy, what are you doing here? Martin asked as no one mentioned his associate being here. It appears my friends here destroyed your home and I came to beat them to death, Naruto said, faking a smile and attitude as he disliked Martin. Oh, please allow me, Martin said as he hit Michael's knee with a bat and began to throw curses and threats. Naruto restrained himself as having Martin believe he was on his side was imperative. Hello my love, Natalia said in Russian as no one here spoke it besides Naruto. She was a woman with DD cup melons, curvy body, and round peach. How's it going with this idiot? Naruto said in Russian as Natalia was Martin's accountant for a few of his accounts and gained his interest, and she often skimmed from certain payments when she laundered them for him. Martin may be a decent crime lord but he's no mastermind, Natalia said with a smirk. How much longer till you leave this idiot? Naruto said as he knew Natalia would take off from Martin. Probably after he gets his new house, Natalia said as she then left with Martin. Hope you know you two, you're incredibly F, Naruto said as Martin basically had them by the ball. Yeah, I can tell, Michael said as he limped inside. I'll call Lester, Naruto said as Michael was gonna call him anyway. He's here too? Michael asked curiously. Yeah, apparently the jackass knows more than he lets on, Naruto said as the whole reason he lived in LS was because Lester moved here and he was always easy to work with, and when he found out Michael was alive he confronted Lester, who then spilled the beans saying he knew for a few years. Next day. Naruto and Michael were giving Lester the double bird, flipping off the nerd. Few minutes later. So how's my protege doing? Lester asked, wondering how Temari was doing. About as well as one can when owning at STRPCLB, Naruto said with a smirk, and no, we don't give discounts, he said as Lester could sometimes get crazy when exposed to certain elements. Also she's pissed you keep trying to hack the cameras, he said to him. DMN, Lester said as Michael left as he gave him the book bag with the materials for the job he was gonna do at Life Invader. Get me some stocks before the bomb goes off, Naruto said as Lester knew how to work the stock market in a number of ways most wouldn't want to be caught doing. How do you know it's a bomb? Lester asked, trying to play the idiot. Let's pretend we don't know each other for a moment, Naruto said as he gave Lester 10,000 to buy him stocks. Few days later. I'm sorry, what? Naruto asked as Jimmy was in his shop looking to purchase weed with Michael of all people. Send some kush my way, my brother, Jimmy said, sounding like Lamar slightly for a moment in pure stupidity. "Hi Michael," May said politely as she was a little ticked off being in this certain position as she sometimes got mail from Trevor as they had a small drag operation going using smoke on the water as a cover to smuggle other DRGs and supplies for him to use. She narrowed down his location to sandy shores. She was wearing clothing similar to her shinobi clothing, wearing a navy blue elegant dress-like shirt and matching blouse, fishnet stockings, and slightly heeled boots. She had cup melons. Curvy and slim body, and nice round and firm peach. "Why are you here?" Naruto asked Michael, wondering what this was as it was odd to see the father and son. "We were going biking, I spotted you and wanted to say hi. He wants weed," Michael said in a brief explanation. "Okay, no," Naruto said as one of his employees took over, "but I will join you. Nice day out," he said with a smirk, waving goodbye to May as they went to the bike rental place. "Fantastic," Michael said as they all bought a bike and decided to have a race. Jimmy and Michael bet the TV while he bet $20 from each of them if he won. Few minutes later. "Never ride your bike through sand, Jimmy," Naruto said as he was waiting at the pier, coming in first, Michael in second and Jimmy in third. Michael and Jimmy then handed 20s to Naruto. Naruto sighed as Michael and Jimmy were once again fighting between themselves. Then Jimmy said something that caught both men's attention, that Tracy was doing pornos on a ship off the edge of the pier on a boat. Michael said as he strpped to his underwear. "Not how I saw today going," Naruto thought, letting out a sigh. "Michael, I'll come with, we can steal this boat while we're at it," he said as the boat was nice, and knowing Michael he'd kill the guys there. "Hold on a second," he said, handing a guy with a cheap handheld telescope the 220s he just got to see Tracy along with 3 guys and 2 girls on board. "What do you see?" Michael asked impatiently. "Besides your daughter shaking her peach," Naruto thought to himself, "to many witnesses," he said as he didn't need cops on his ass. "Hold this," he said, handing Michael multiple bags filled with joints as he bought some scotch from a nearby vendor. "And you say I have a problem," Jimmy said as he saw 6 different bags with different types of weed. "And what are we gonna do with this SHT?" Michael asked as wondering what the booze were for. "Easy," Naruto said, getting in his underwear, getting a lot of attention from both SECs. "I make it seem like a guy wanting to party. You get to murder the 3 idiots," he said with a smirk. "Love it, love everything about it," Michael said as this had all the makings of an old school movie. Naruto and Michael dived down into the ocean and swam to the boat, climbing aboard. "If you can drag those idiots over there you can kill them," Naruto said, giving Michael a silencer to add to his pistol. Michael looked at the tunnel and knew it was as good a place as any to murder someone as killing on the ship in broad daylight where someone from the pier could see was a big mistake. "Hola mi amigos," Naruto said, presenting weed and booze instantly accepted. Michael was impressed as Naruto was quickly accepted and watched him and Tracy carefully, and was surprised when Naruto insulted 2 of the ladies as he was normally so smooth. "He's getting rid of them," he thought with a smirk as he hid when the girls decided to swim to shore. "Sorry about that, guys," Naruto said as he poured them a glass and handed them another joint. "It's cool, man, those girls were thoughts anyway," a man said with a smirk. "How'd you find me anyway, Naruto?" Tracy asked as it was nice that he was here. "Your Life Invader page," Naruto said as he didn't want to rat Jimmy out. "You follow me?" Tracy said in surprise and glee. "Yeah," Naruto said in a white lie as he would follow Tracy after this. "Hey guys, how about a race? Fastest man gets a prize," Naruto said, shaking a bag of joints, getting cheers as they all went to the jet skis, not paying any mind to Michael as they were very baked. "I swear you are brilliant," Michael said as he overheard one of them thanking Tracy for letting them use her house, and now he really wanted to kill these 3. "Just kill them in the tunnel and go home, I'll take care of the boat," Naruto said as he took their phones and was glad they were dumb enough to leave all their accounts active and had no lock screen. "Where'd they go?" Tracy asked, seeing the guys leaving, her dad following behind. "Why are you going to kill them?" she yelled angrily, slapping him a little. "Have you been doing DRGs?" Naruto said, not really bothered by the slap as he knew Tracy reacted a little badly to certain situations, but noticed she had a faint trail of white in one of her nostrils. "Just a little blow," Tracy said as Naruto then got on the phone making a call. "Who the F are you calling?" she said a little heatedly. Someone I know to get you out of this little headspace of yours, Naruto said as he called someone who was a seemingly good influence and was thinking of giving Amanda this phone number as she needed something after the thing with the tennis coach. Yeah, hey, how fast can you get to a ship off the edge of the pier? 10 minutes perfect, he said with a smirk. 10 minutes later. Hey Marianne, Naruto said as Marianne Quinn, someone he saw often to work out with as she was his training partner. She had mid-C cup melons and an athletic body and peach. This her? Marianne asked as she looked at Tracy with a disapproving look. Yep, Naruto said as Marianne was against illegal drugs, thank God she's okay with weed, he thought with a smirk as Marianne was at many drag rallies and once popped some weird guy who smoked a little too much weed in both their opinions and often F many people when he shared his weed, sending them to rehab. How can you be so F stupid? Marianne said to Tracy, do you know what cane can do to you? It can destroy your brain, you can lose brain functions or even die from overdose, she said, yelling at Tracy loudly. But Tracy was saying till Marianne shushed her. No buts. Marianne said, glaring at her, illegal drugs are illegal for a reason, they can kill you, F up your body, make you addicted, shortening your life, she said as drag users didn't always last very long, more than a decade most of the time. I swear she could be a life coach if she wasn't so F crazy, Naruto said as Marianne had toned down in his time of knowing her. And I hear you were going to do a little porno, is that right? Marianne said, glaring at Tracy, daring her to lie to her. It wasn't gonna show my face, just some fingering, Tracy said as she really wanted to get on Fame or Shame. Naruto, where is the camera? Marianne asked him curiously. Downstairs, Naruto said as the guys who once owned this had a room set up for making pornos. Let's go, Marianne said, dragging Tracy to a clean room, grabbing the camera. What are you doing? Tracy asked, a little nervous as Marianne began to strp down. You wanted to do a porno, so let's make a porno, Marianne said, giving Tracy a stern look. I never agreed to this, Naruto said with a smirk. Shut up, you obviously like this, Marianne said, seeing him become irked. Now strp, she said to Tracy. Tracy did as she was told, taking off her peach shorts and peeled out of her pink and white one piece. Nice, Naruto said, checking her out. Tracy blushed as she had never been so exposed before to anyone like this and soon saw how irked Naruto was. What do you want to do to me? She asked, trying to sound confident. Marianne pulled Tracy into a kiss. Don't get cocky, she said as she and Naruto brought Tracy to the bed. Now let's give him a show, she said, getting on top of Tracy as they began to make out. Naruto took off his boxers and went to Tracy and thrust it into her, making her scream. Yeah, that's it, break her, Naruto, Marianne said with a smirk. Oh, F me please, Tracy said beggingly, succumbing to the pleasure. F break me, she said, wanting to be stretched out. I love F naughty girls, Naruto said with a smirk. Are you a bad girl? He asked Tracy, wanting her to admit it. I'm whatever you want me to be, Tracy said with a lust-filled smile. Man, this is so F hot, Marianne said as she fingered herself. You're next, Naruto said as he knew Tracy had little or no prior experience with SEC. DMN right I am, Marianne said, loving the rough treatment he was giving to Tracy and wanted him to be even rougher with her. F leak inside me, Naruto please. Tracy said, wanting to get stuffed with his juices. Take it, you naughty girl, Naruto said as he filled up her PP with his juices. Weak peach PP, Marianne said with a smirk as it was now her turn. So what are you gonna do to your B-stud? She asked as she knew Naruto was the stronger one between them. Easy, Naruto said, getting her on all fours, penetrating her peach without warning, and began pulling her hair, while spanking her peach roughly. That's it, stud, wreck my peach, Marianne said with a crazed smile. Naruto pulled her hair more roughly, making her loudly. I'm in charge, he said with a smirk. Isn't that right? He asked her. Yes, Marianne said as she out. Use me like a cheap SLT, she said with a smirk. Naruto pressed her face into the bed, suppressing her and went full throttle on her peach, spanking and gripping her peach even harder, leaving it bright and red. SHT, Marianne thought, thriving on the pain, hoping he left a bruise. I love this more than our workouts, she thought happily, and tried squeezing her peach tighter. KNKYB, Naruto said, feeling her attempt. he then pulled her into a kiss as he leaked inside her peach and she climaxed, he then flipped her on her back. "That's right, have another round F my PP," Marianne said with a perverse grin. "I will," Naruto said, thrusting into her PP with the same roughness as he gave her peach. "F me god damn it," Marianne screamed in pure pleasure. "You were always a great F," Naruto said gruffly as he F her. Tracy soon regained consciousness and saw Naruto and Marianne F, so she got up and positioned her PP to line up with Marianne's face. "Payback is a B," she said, sitting on Marianne's face, forcing her to eat her out. Marianne into Tracy's PP, liking it in and out, collecting Naruto's juices. Naruto leaned forward a bit and spanked Tracy's peach. Tracy in surprise. "Please keep doing that," she said with a Naruto continued to move into Marianne while spanking Tracy, soon all three of them climaxing together. Vanilla Unicorn. As the events on the boat went down, a certain computer genius hacked Naruto's phone and was listening and watching the events play out. Temari thought as she fingered herself, screaming in pleasure as the loud music always cancelled out her screams. As few hours later at the Vanilla Unicorn. "Hey," Naruto said to Temari in the back, typing on her computer. "Hi," Temari said, looking up from her computer. She was wearing a black shirt and a red skirt, she had high DD cup melons, and a firm well-defined peach. Hour later. "He's giving me the boat?" Naruto asked curiously as he got a call from Lester as he sent Tracy home in a cab. "Yeah, he said it wasn't his, he wants his boat," Lester said over the phone. "Oh yeah, I found it, but you'll never believe who has it now," Naruto said as Anko found out who had the boat from the Vagos before killing them, stealing a 100,000 grand they got from it. "Who?" Lester asked curiously. "Martin Madrazzo," Naruto said, finding it irony laughable. "Does he know the boat belonged to Michael?" Lester asked, as that would complicate things for them if either Michael or Madrazzo found out. "Not to my knowledge. But after we get this as his money, we should rob his as blind. I have someone on the inside, and luckily for us, Martin likes to keep his assets hidden in SHT he buys, like paintings or artifacts," he said, as Martin and Michael were old school, something the men shared in common. "You want to steal from a drag crime lord?" Lester asked in surprise. "And wait, you have someone on the inside?" he asked curiously. "Yeah, I got a list from his businesses and where he intends to make his new setup. He's apparently trying to branch out to Sandy Shores," Naruto said as Natalia messaged him a while back with this information. "How much money are we talking about? How many men?" Lester asked curiously. 20 million, and he has a panic button for his men from his phone and a remote trigger. We can stop the phone with you or Temari hacking his phone, but he can still contact his men, which he has a total of about 80, Naruto said, with as he knew Lester liked to measure the profit and danger of each job. "What about his banks?" "From what I'm seeing, he keeps most of his money there and keeps like 30% at his house," Lester said as he looked into Martin's bank accounts and recent and past purchases. "My contact has access to his bank. He may have different accounts, but he uses the same bank, so no one would question her being there," Naruto said with a smirk. "We'll have to sit on this till after Martin transfers, so we still gotta do the jewel heist," Lester said, as they didn't need Martin to see them as an enemy and needed to get close. "Alright," Naruto said with a smirk, as taking down Martin Madrazzo would be fun. Garment Factory. Kareem Dens, Paki McCreary, and Michael's guy Ricky Lukens, Naruto said with a smirk. "I thought you would have picked Paige Harris for our hacker," Lester asked curiously. As she seemed way overqualified. "Paige is too expensive, and if we're fast enough we can steal everything with Ricky," Naruto said, as Paige could buy them a lot of time, but she'd take too much of the cut, and besides Paki owes me one from a while back. He tried robbing some drag store and I had to save his as, so instead of 12 he'll get 8, he said with a smirk. "So that's 20% of the take for the crew," Michael said, adding up the math. "Don't forget me and Franklin's 5% each," Naruto said, as he was doing this as a favor and for the boat while Franklin was looking for experience. "Yeah, okay, just get in contact with everyone," Michael said to Lester. "Me and you will go steal the tear gas. I'll send Franklin the location for the pest control van," Naruto said, as this will be quick. Few hours later. "I swear man, this is boring," Michael said as they were on the highway late at night waiting for the truck with the materials. Be happy I'm helping you, Naruto said as they sat in a stolen car waiting for the truck. So how's Amanda? He asked curiously as his friend's wife cheating at him was still surprising. I don't know man, sometimes I ask myself what's the point, Michael asked himself as he and Amanda. Dude, no offense but I can't exactly defend you man, Naruto asked as when he visited Tracy he talked to Amanda. I mean dude, seriously hookers, he said as he went to back alley's TRP joints. Not my best move, Michael said as those were moments of weakness on his part. Listen man, either talk to her alone and see if you can fix it or end it, Naruto said as their marriage was problematic to themselves and others. Why do I go to a therapist and not you? Michael asked with a small laugh. No idea man, but here's the truck, you know what to do, Naruto asked as he drove behind the truck. Where the F do you get this SHT? Michael asked as Naruto gave him an advanced blowtorch. List of illegal contacts, Naruto said with a smirk as Michael got on the hood of Naruto's car. Michael began to cut through the lock on the back of the truck and hopped on board the truck. Okay, Naruto said going on the left side of the truck and pushed it to the side of the road as Michael shot the driver and guard in the passenger seat and left the stolen car and entered the truck throwing the bodies in the back, stealing their hats to somewhat look the part and cleaned the BLD on the inside and drove to Lester's garment factory. Half hour later. Why did you leave them here? Lester asked inspecting the gas in the truck seeing the bodies. Oh please, you have any vehicles we steal cleaned and hidden, plus we have more time till people look for this truck, Naruto said as Lester always hired a cleaner and had scramblers around the small area of his factory to avoid detection. So we all set? Michael asked seeing the pest control van. Yeah, Lester said with a sigh as he called his normal guy. Call May, she'll want to inspect the formula, Naruto said as May was a scientist as she knew how to determine chemical reactions as she was skilled in the art and was also a doctor. Next day. You good on standby, Naruto said to Tenten and Anko. If a guy dies I get his cut right, Anko said as she heard things about Kareem and he didn't seem the type to be actually good at this type of situation, usually doing lesser crimes. And you know my price, Tenten said winking at him. Naruto smiled and got into position outside the sewer exit as it wouldn't take long for the cops to figure this out. You ready? Michael said as they waited in position as he came straight here after the jewelry store. Yeah, Naruto said as he was listening to the comms. Kareem died, he said to Michael who cursed. Anko got the money, he said seeing Michael calm down and soon heard the loud roar of bikes from the tunnel and sirens from the distance and soon started driving. I swear, Naruto said firing from a sniper killing multiple cops and shooting their black boxes. That girl you married is terrifying, Michael said as he saw Tenten using batons to cause a wheel lock in the cops' cars making them suddenly stop and flip. Yep, Naruto said as he always found her deadliness attractive. Yo homie, how it is? Franklin asked over the comm as he dodged cops seeing the truck closing in on them smashing cop cars. How it is that I'm covering your peach, Naruto said letting out a chuckle. Nice shooting kid, Michael said with a smirk as he drove the truck. I swear this is too easy, Naruto said as a dozen cop cars wasn't really a challenge. Later with Naruto. You and Franklin better drink one for me, Naruto said as he was driving to Martin's home seeing it still being built and saw Martin there and handed him the money. Tell Michael he did good work, Martin said with a smirk. Hola Naruto, Patricia Madrazzo said as she greeted Naruto. Hola Patricia, Naruto said as this woman was very kind despite her environment which was always surrounded by criminals and killers. Ay Dios mío bet, Martin said as he shoved Patricia away. Anyway my friend, I must go as you can see much work needs to be done, but I need you to do me a favor for a friend, Martin said as he smiled. You're gonna rob and kill him, put up with him for a little while longer, Naruto thought as he nodded with a forced smile. An dealer I know, Oscar Guzman, is selling me guns on the side of a rival of mine down in Mexico. Would you mind making sure the DLVRY goes according to plan? They're stealing it from Sandy Shores Airfield, I believe, from some biker gang tomorrow, Martin said as Oscar gave him much info but failed to mention his associates. It's a half hour from here, Naruto said as he went to his car and smiled at his passenger Deborah. I know that look. What are you up to? Deborah asked with a smile. I have a job to do. I'm gonna drop you off, Naruto said letting out a sigh. Let me come with, Deborah asked excitedly as she became more and more attracted to danger whenever she asked and heard Naruto's stories and soon began craving the real thing. Fine, remember how to work a gun, Naruto asked as he took Deborah to the gun range to teach her how to use a gun. Yes, Deborah said excitedly. Naruto let out a sigh as he went to the back and got her a pistol with an extended clip and a combat knife. What's Floyd think you're doing anyway? He asked curiously, wondering what she told the pansy of a man. I told him I went to a conference or some SHT, Deborah said as she really hated Floyd. Hour later. You're gonna kill all these guys? Deborah asked in excitement as Naruto parked outside a small trailer park lot. Yeah, the idiots at the ARSTRP are just waiting there. I don't like reinforcements showing up if I can help it, Naruto said as he counted less than 30 bikers here, a lot of explosives objects they left outside. I mean seriously, this gun has 12 bullets a clip and I only need to use 5 to kill them all, he said, wondering if they kept much money here seeing as this is where they slept and kept their DRGs. They were brought out of their thoughts as a van sped into the small trailer park and saw a red truck follow behind a mostly bald man taking out an AK-47 from the back while his 2 passengers hid. Trevor, Naruto thought as Lester told him he was almost certain Trevor was dead at this point as May hadn't heard word of him for about a year. He watched seeing Trevor scream and fire at the bikers chasing down the ones who decided to run, killing them. Thank God I carry these, he said as he took out a small tracker from his pocket and threw it at the back of Trevor's truck before Trevor took off. Well, that was a bust, Deborah said as she was looking forward to some action. Not as much as you think, Naruto said as they walked along the trailer park picking up some of the dropped guns, ammo, money, and even some bulletproof vests. Seriously, 20,000, Deborah asked, wondering if she chose the wrong profession. And I'm giving you 5,000, Naruto said with a smile. Why? And anyway I can earn the other 5,000, Deborah asked, pressing herself against Naruto with a naughty smile. To show you what this life is like, and maybe right now though we gotta follow Trevor, Naruto said with a sigh as he counted 12.5 bikes here, all in great quality. Surprisingly, if Trevor doesn't try and kill me we can steal a bunch of these, he thought to himself. Few minutes later. I'd throw him fully in the stream so his body drifts out to the ocean, less likely of the cops knowing where, and sometimes when he died, Naruto said as he just saw Trevor kill Ortega. Well, look at this, a second ghost. How you been, kid? Trevor said, pulling Naruto in a hug. Why haven't you wrote or called mother effer? He said a little angrily. You've been off the grid for years. We tried finding you. I mean, I only came here to make sure a DLVRY went on track for a guy named Oscar Guzman, Naruto said as Trevor calmed down as he realized Naruto had been right. He did go off the grid for a long time and lost contact with everyone after being in a drunken rage over Michael for a few years. So what about Michael? Trevor asked, wanting to fish for info. Found him a few weeks ago, Naruto said as Trevor knew the same thing he did up until he saw Michael. So that fat sob is alive? Where? Trevor asked curiously. No, you're on your own. I never get between your BS. I will tell you, he's in Los Santos, Naruto said as he knew picking a side was a deadly decision. Fine, Trevor said, letting out a sigh before kicking Oscar's corpse in the stream like Naruto suggested, as Naruto had on-point murder cover-up skills and the cops here were easily bought by gangs to F with other people or extort them into being paid off. Oh, before we take off let's go back to those bikers you killed and steal their bikes you left, Naruto said with a smirk. Still the same old smart BSTRD, let's go. I think I left the van they had intact and working, Trevor said as he was kinda sure that was true. Next day. 3 trips, kid, Trevor said as he and Naruto made 3 trips to the bikers' trailer lot and got all the bikes and loaded them into Trevor's CRP garage. Oh please, these bikes can go from 5 to 7 grand easy and we have about 16, Naruto said with a smirk. Meaning between 80,000 and 112,000, Trevor said as he and Naruto were doing an even split, so Trevor would have more or less around 50,000. You are the most ruthless criminal but still somehow have a code. I swear you're like the characters from Michael's movies, he said as Michael watched old movies whenever they hung out. So what next? Naruto asked as he may as well help Trevor while he was here. Easy, gonna meet some drag dealers, Trevor said as he got in his truck. I'm out, but call me if things get violent, Naruto said as Deborah was excited to fight and had a little too happy of a trigger finger. Trevor just waved it off and went to a local bar he went to where he usually got repeatedly banned. Few minutes later. Hello? Naruto said, picking up a phone. Trevor, where are you? I heard the Aztecas are coming to kill you, a man over the phone said in urgency. I'm not Trevor, I'm his old running buddy, Naruto said quickly. Leaning, the man's name was Chef and he made DRGS with Trevor at a gas station, and when he got the location he told Trevor to hold off on bringing his associates as he went to help Chef. Oh, this is gonna be so fun, Deborah said as they arrived. Who the F is this? Chef asked as Naruto walked in. Not important right now, Naruto said as he knew people like them didn't like amateurs. How good of a shot are you? He asked curiously as he saw a muscle car approach in the distance. Better than most, Chef said as he was an okay shooter. Good, then let's try and avoid shooting these cars, Naruto said as he bought Los Santos customs with the massive amount of money he got from the stock market when we was working with Lester, as he had been stealing a lot of vehicles lately, so he thought what better way to make money than using a place that repaired vehicles and gave them upgrades. Naruto and Chef soon began to take them out, quickly killing the Aztecas on this side of the building. Oh my god, Deborah said as they were in the back and she killed 5 Aztecas and he was acting so entirely calm. 30 minutes later. Hey Deborah, May said as she arrived seeing Naruto bring some cars to a nearby Los Santos customs. Hi mate, Deborah said, still feeling her adrenaline rush had yet to cease. May, as I live and breathe, Trevor said to her as he arrived with some Chinese associates walking up to her to give her a hug but was slapped across the face. That was not calling me to tell me you were alive, May said as she worked with channels that didn't connect to many things to her, so if they were ever discovered she could be scot-free if the cops were ever involved. Okay, I deserve that, Trevor said in admittance. Gentlemen, let us go to the lab, he said, taking them upstairs. They won't sign, Naruto said to May. He's too small time. From a certain perspective he has 3 people working for him not counting your partnership, and his place is a literal hell hole, he said to her. May was curious as to what he meant, and when she appeared in the gas station and peered upstairs and placed a hand to her mouth, as the smell even with all the windows open was foul, she smelled urine, vomit, BLD, and feces. Yeah, those guys aren't signing, she said as she held back her own vomit from coming out. We have a few days here, don't we? Naruto asked as May had to check on their smoke on the water store here and offered Chef use of it, allowing him to manage it and even use it instead of the gas station that should be condemned. Next day. We're moving up in the world, Chef, Trevor said as he checked his relocated lab and was glad they were near ammunition. And good to see you, kid, he said as he hugged Anko. Good to see you, T, Anko said as she liked the psychotic man as they always messed things up together, especially when they were on rampages. I'll go with them, May said as Naruto was giving her a look and she understood it fully. These two together spelled trouble. 10 minutes later. How big is their lab? May asked curiously as the O'Neills were apparently a large family cooking meth, and they were apparently one of the bigger organizations out here, so eliminating them was a simple matter, but she'd like the materials and give some of them to Chef to make Trevor's lab more functional. Pretty big from what I'm guessing, Trevor said as he had some mutual dealings with them in the past as he was eyeballing their material, so he knew what competition he had. How many of them are there? Anko asked, taking out a machete, combat knife, switchblade, and a pump shotgun. About 30, Trevor said as he was guessing at this point as they all looked alike. Here's a scope, we're here and there's a small hill right there, May said, tossing a scope to Anko. 3 spotters and a guard, Anko said, looking at the roof, then spotted 2 idiots shooting bottles and 2 more rolling materials in the back. Those are the Head brothers, Trevor said, seeing 5 of them drive off. We'll get them later, he said more to himself than to Anko. I'll take out the guards, May said as she had a sniper rifle and immediately took out the men on the roof. You can go play, Anko, she said as she sat back and watched Anko sneak to the idiots shooting bottles, having her machete and switchblade out. Oh, she's gotten good, Trevor said as he watched Anko slit a guy's throat as she shoved the machete up his chest. Then as the man in front of her turned around, she pulled the machete out and decapitated him. Yep, but her deadliness isn't in her skills with a blade, May said, seeing her change the switchblade with the shotgun, killing the 2 in the back by stabbing one and shooting the other. Glad Naruto got her silencers, she thought to herself, as Anko's bloodthirst had its drawbacks at times as she sometimes threw stealth away. Her deadliness lies with her athletics, she said as Anko was incredibly athletic even without chakra. What's she doing? Trevor asked curiously, seeing her pick up a nearby gas can and pour it on an ATV. A tactic she picked up from Naruto, Mei said. As people always would be drawn toward explosions, they watched as Anko placed it by the dead bottle shooting O'Neill's, and she tossed her a grenade to make it extra loud, and an unlit Molotov. It's not lava, but it'll do, she thought, as she was an explosives expert as well as a scientist making the most out of her DRGS and other materials. Nice jump, Trevor said as he saw Anko drop the grenade by the ATV and jumped on the roof in a single bound. Go see what those idiots are up to, O'Neill said as many of them came to the porch. Anko smiled as she fell forward, her feet hooked on the gutters, as when she fell she hung upside down, surprising the men. Boom, Bess, she said, tossing a lit Molotov, and shot it when it was close, seeing the many brothers burn. Be a dear and go get that extinguisher, May asked Trevor, pointing at one near the barn. Few minutes later. What a bunch of pussies, Anko said as her bloodlust died, as the few stragglers were no fun. Well, the lab is decent, May said as she packed it up and had Trevor put it in his truck to take it to Chef and have some of these shipped to her, and stole all the supplies they had. Wanna go blow up some bikers? Trevor asked Anko as she squealed and said yes. Remember to pick up the bikes, May said, reminding them of Naruto's chop shop side business with illegal vehicles. We will, they said, taking of. Wonder how Tenten and Temari have been, May thought to herself, as those two had a weird relationship, as Temari always seemed nervous around the woman. Few days earlier. Alright girls, time to go earn some money, Tenten said as she was talking to the strippers in the back. Yes, MSTRS, the women said in unison. Tenten smirked as she and Naruto personally hired an F with all of them loving her husband's SXL prowess. She especially liked the girls didn't give in to prostitution, as they were able to make many lawsuits, making over $1 million, and the no-touching rule was heavily enforced as they got rid of the male bodyguards as they barely useful and were no longer necessary. Now where is Temari? She thought, as for all intents and purposes Temari owned this place. But she ran it while Tenten took care of finances and the like. Tenten walked into Temari's office and saw the woman was asleep at her desk. She walked to her and carried her to the nearby couch and tucked her in. Just as she was about to leave, she saw Temari's computer was unlocked, and her ninja-born curiosity got to her, and she decided to see what secrets the woman had, having slight computer skills. Tenten looked through the computer, not seeing anything noteworthy, till she found a file that was named Ninja, and seeing as how Temari barely had a sense of humor, this was something special. When she clicked on it, she saw it was a live feed to cameras all placed in a familiar environment, and saw it was coming from their home on Greenwich Place that they bought recently from Lenny Avery after renegotiating the price. What are you hiding, Temari? She said as she looked at each camera. 1 hour later. Little SLT, Tenten thought, looking at the sleeping blonde as she found and discovered recordings of her and Naruto's SXL encounters all on Temari's computer. Tenten took a deep breath and sighed. Time to unleash some punishment, she thought to herself as she left to get some items. Few hours later. Temari woke up on her couch and stretched, not hearing any music. She looked at the clock and saw it was past midnight, as that was when the club closed. As she got up, she immediately noticed she was in the NDE. What happened to my clothes? She thought to herself, wondering what happened to her clothing. She was brought out of her thoughts as she saw Tenten walk in wearing a black leather corset and matching panties and black thigh high heel boots. She had a writing CRP. Get up, Tenten said as she placed the writing CRP under her chin. Temari did as instructed, as she felt very vulnerable right now, and followed Tenten to the bar where 2 martinis were waiting on the bar. I'm going to punish you, Temari. You recorded me and Naruto F others and fingered yourself to it, Tenten said calmly as she found it interesting Temari recorded herself as she played with herself. Temari became stiff, holding in her breath when Tenten said that, as she didn't know what to do. Do you remember when I had this place renovated? Tenten asked her. You remember what I did with the basement, don't you, Temari? She asked her with a grin, sipping the martini. Temari knew well what the basement was, as Temari had peeked into it when she was alone once. It was a sect den for Naruto and Tenten's use, usually bringing the strippers or their other intense lovers there. It was full of costumes and SEC toys for the women to use. Now finish your martini and we'll be on our way, Tenten said in a tone that was non-negotiable. Temari blushed and they went downstairs after finishing their drinks, and when they made it in she saw the room, seeing the low-powered lights on, and saw how large the room was, easily the size of the whole club, and saw the giant bed that could fit at least 20 people. She saw another bar, strpr pole, a large closet, and the wall that had hooks for a few items. She was brought out of her thoughts as Tenten used the writing CRP on her peach. To the bed, Tenten said to her as she went to get something and grabbed a few items. Spread your legs, she said in a demanding tone. Temari did as instructed and as Tenten rubbed the writing CRP against her PP and striked it. You need to be punished. You recorded me and Naruto when we F people. I'm angry, pleased, and corny, she said to her friend. I'm recording this just so you know. I want to remember this night, she said to her. You can talk, you know, she said with a smirk, seeing her face was bright red. What are you gonna do to me? Temari asked her as her mind was playing many scenarios and they made her wetter. Easy, I'm gonna F you, Tenten said with a smile. Your body is mine to take out all my frustration on. I'm gonna get back for our fight, to all our arguments, everything, she said with a smirk and took out a marker. This is a special marker. You can wash away what I write in the shower but it won't leak off from sweat, she said to her as she uncapped it and began writing above her PP. What are you writing? Temari asked in worry, wondering what Tenten was right on her body. The leaf symbol. Thought it'd be appropriate since you're gonna be Naruto's and my property, Tenten said with a smile as she began to write on the blonde's BRST things like SLT and where. Perfect, she said with a smile, tossing away the marker. Now on your knees, she said commandingly as she removed her panties. Oh, before I forget, she said, raising HNDCFFS as she handcuffed Temari and then pulled Temari's head to her PP. Temari as she ate out Tenten, tasting all her juices flooding her mouth. Stop, Tenten said, having enough of Temari's mouth, and lifted her up, then pushed her on the bed, getting her on her knees and her head face down as her arms were still bound. She grabbed a strap on and put it on, immediately rubbing Temari's PP with it. I know you know Naruto is much bigger, but I'm still gonna do my best to F the SHT out of you because I am your MSTRS. You answer to me and him, she said, thrusting fully into her, making her scream his name. Tell me what you want him to do to your salty body, she said, demanding. Ly. Naruto, Temari said as she out the center of her affection's name. Tell me what you want him to do to you, Tenten said more sternly. I want him to F me like the where I am. I wanna ride him and drink his juice, have him bathe me in it, mark me as his nerdy little SLT, Temari said shamelessly as Tenten spanked her ruthlessly. That's it, that is what you are, something to please our man. Your body will pleasure him in any way it can, Tenten said with a smile as she loved breaking in the girls, making sure they knew their place. We're gonna keep F Temari. Being F by Naruto gives you a lot of stamina. He's F me for days and I'll do the same to you, but remember he'll do it better, she said, knowing she was second to Naruto in everything. Few hours later. Ah, too bad, Tenten said as she was looking at Temari, who was panting in exhaustion. You're not getting out of this that easy, SLT, she said, pulling out a DLD and soon made it vibrate. Now take it, she said as she shoved it inside Temari's PP, making sure it'd remain in place, and activated it, making Temari scream. Good night, she said, lying next to the girl, her and climaxes sounding like music to her as she drifted off to sleep. Temari could only cry out as her PP felt intense pleasure after being F raw by Tenten. Next morning. Good morning, Temari, Tenten said cheerfully as she lied in a soaked bed next to a still woman. I see you're having fun, she said, removing the VBRTR as she watched Tenten panting. We're having a guest coming, she said with a smirk. Temari, even in her dazed mind, could piece together it was probably one of the strippers, as it was possibly opening time for the club. Temari was soon proven right, as a woman wearing a choker that said, B, and had a leash attached to it. She had high D cups, curvy body, and a heart-shaped peach. Temari, this is Carmen Ortiz, one of my favorite SLTs, Tenten said, kissing the woman passionately, making her out in pleasure and lust. And we're gonna have some fun, Carmen. You see this be in training, she asked her SBMSSV lover coyly. Yes, MSTRS Tenten, Carmen said with a as if Tenten addressing her made her feel pleasure. Good, we're gonna play a game, Tenten said as both women shivered seeing the look. Temari, you are gonna eat out Carmen, and if she doesn't leak before you won't get out of those cuffs, and you'll get that VBRTR in you again for another 3 hours. Carmen on the bed, spread your legs, she said, making Temari face the woman's PP and got to work as she felt Tenten was gonna do something, and she was proven right as Tenten began to strike her peach with the writing CRP. Temari tried not to or lose herself to pleasure as she ate Carmen, not wanting to be punished again. MSTRS, this one needs more training, Carmen said as her SXL appetite wasn't being fulfilled. You are so very right my little nympho. I guess Temari doesn't want to be freed, Tenten said teasingly. It'll be sad mstrs. I heard this one was smart but soon she'll be no better use than a juice dumpster waiting to be filled by Naruto, Carmen said to Tenten. And nothing wrong with that, Tenten said as she giggled as she watched as both Temari's ass cheeks brightened from all her strikes. Oh mstrs she's getting better, Carmen said as she as Temari found a sweet spot. If you leak Carmen I'll punish you instead, Tenten said wanting to be rough with one of them. Both women continued the battle of holding their orgasms but soon both exploded. Both of you climaxed. Guess you both lose, Tenten said as she approached them both and groped their assets. Next day. Hey babe, Naruto said walking inside as he just got back in the city and came here to see Tenten and the other girls. Sweetie, Tenten said as she got off the bed with the two panting women. I was spending time with our pets, she said as both girls kissed her melons. Found the cameras, Naruto asked his wife. So you did know, Tenten said as not much got past Naruto. Yeah, I was gonna pretend to catch her one of these days, Naruto said petting a blushing Temari as she was still somewhat coherent. It's good to see you mstr, Carmen said as she just being in his presence just imagining all the things he would do to her. Hi Carmen, Naruto said as he then began to disrobe the women watching him like he was a slab of meat and soon marveled at his member its appearance never ceasing to amaze them. F your newest addition, Tenten said as she glared at Carmen daring her to complain asserting her demps in the HRM. Temari approached Naruto and began to JRK his member as she pressed her rack against his chest. Nice tats, Naruto said seeing the graffiti on her body and noticed she had tally marks on her peach, guessing Tenten was keeping track of her orgasms he thought seeing tally marks on both Temari's ass cheeks. You can do whatever you want to my body, Temari said having no reservations of what he'd do to her knowing she'd love it and trusted him fully with her body. Tenten, Naruto said motioning to the camera Tenten immediately catching onto what he meant and she grabbed the camera and approached them, get ready to be seen up close and personal Temari, he said as he picked her up by her thighs, look at the camera and tell it the truth, he said teasingly. I'm a SLT my mstr's pathetic and corny SLT, Temari said as she hung her tongue out as she was flushed with pleasure feeling Naruto rub his member on her slit, my PP wants to be stuffed with his juices, she said having no shame as she screamed as Naruto thrusted himself into her. Tenten smiled admiring her work on Temari, oh honey, she said as she fingered herself as she watched, welcome to the HRM Temari, she thought as she watched Temari get christened. Naruto smirked feeling her CLMX immediately and soon lowered her to the floor having her kneel before him and slapped his PP against her face and watched her kissed his PP covered in her PP juices then began to blow him always keeping eye contact making her blush even brighter. His PP is insane, Temari thought as she drooled tasting his pre-juice savoring his taste and soon was overcome with hunger for his juice, she feeling him grab the back of her head and forcing the thrusts to go even deeper than before and cried out a when she felt him leak inside her mouth stuffing her cheeks making her swallow his heavy load, he's still going, she thought thinking his PP was like a fire hose shooting out juices and when he pulled out he was still going strong covering her face and tips. Naruto wasted no time after Temari ate his juice he forced her on all fours and mounted her. Carmen watched in jealousy as she felt her PP pour out juices as her insides burned with longing for Naruto to F her but knew that it'd be unwise to anger her mstrs and mstr. Tenten smiled as she saw Temari's face and saw she lost herself to the pleasure and Naruto placed her down to rest, Carmen dance, she said as Carmen approached the strpr pole and began to dance for their pleasure, she said as she rested her head on Naruto's shoulder feeling comfort and warmth from his touch and as she felt his irkn on her thigh and his hand was cherishing her peach. I want you to ride my PP, Naruto said as he loved watching his wife ride him. Tenten smiled as she loved to give Naruto pleasure taking great pride and joy in her work pleasuring him, she watched him lay on the bed and crawled on top of him and grinded her PP against his PP and soon took it into her and began bouncing on it. Naruto took one of her tips into his mouth and ate on it aggressively. Tenten pulled his head closer to her brst F me Naruto, she thought wanting to be destroyed wanting him to just claim her body like he always has in the past. Naruto had enough and got up but was careful to hold on to Tenten and pressed her into the wall F her with more in a primal fraction. Tenten saw the look in his eyes and felt herself tighten as she looked into his eyes and saw the eyes of a predator. She even louder as Naruto switched from her PP to her peach, making let out a loud as she loved him, just taking her like this, no warning, giving her all his love, both emotional and physical. Naruto kept going and leaked inside her peach, making her He slowly let her down, smirking as he saw her legs wobble and shake as she tried to stand. He gave her peach a nice slap and grabbed it aggressively as he began to kiss her neck. Carmen, your turn, Tenten said, looking at the nympho, giving her the permission so she could F Naruto. Carmen wasted no time jumping on him, wrapping her legs around his waist and arms around his neck. F me like a toy, make my PP a gaping hole like you always do, she thought, as Naruto was the only one to satiate her needs and desires and then some. Tenten watched with interest and limped her way over to the bed and watched Naruto F Carmen like she was a F toy. She in surprise as she saw Temari eating the juices out of her hole. This SLT is coming along nicely, she thought, and as she enjoyed Temari's actions, glad she had learned enough to act without orders. Carmen lost herself as Naruto knew her weak spots and was F her to great succession. Filled the basement of the STRP CLB for hours. Later with Naruto. You sure you're okay with all that? Naruto asked Deborah outside her condo. Yeah, I was moving out anyway, rent's paid for 2 more months, Deborah said to him as she was moving into his place. Hey, keep in touch with this number, Naruto said, handing her a number which she took, then took off. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author pyrohelixdrago on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.